and just showing love for this beloved dish that's a staple in so many Bahamian households, including mine. That's it for today's Let's Talk Social. Stay tuned all week as we continue to highlight Bahamian creators, keeping the spirit of independence alive online. I'm Matea. See you tomorrow.
Well, that looks great, Matea. And speaking of looking great, yes, our Destiny Reed is ready for the reveal. How are you feeling, Destiny?
I am feeling great.
Are you feeling patriotic? You look absolutely stunning, darling.
You definitely
There you go.
You look like you're ready for the People's Rush.
Oh, yes.
Parade, yes. All right.
Just some good settings. Just keep that on until, stick it out. Yes, lock it in, lock it in.
I got you. Well, that does it for Access Now. Make sure to tune in tomorrow night when Ingrid Bodie will show us what straw work independent style is all about.
Nice. But for tonight, make sure you stay tuned for the Rundown with Clint Watson.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Clint Watson has been the trusted voice of journalism for over 2 decades. He is your first choice for hard-hitting discussions, your best choice for current affairs issues and investigative journalism. It's time to start the journey of relentless journalism. It's time to start the journey of facts over fiction. It's time for the Rundown with Clint Watson here on ZNS, where only the sun covers the Bahamas better.
It's okay to grieve. It's okay to feel lost. Your father was an incredible man.
Last will and testament of one Mr. Harold J. Thompson Sr.
No matter what, we're going to find strength in each other.
Are you sure this is what you want? Grief can make one think irrationally. You work for me now.
Capital, Bahamas. Bimini is the gateway, Bahamas. 1492, Columbus landed. 1973, we were free. From Nassau to Inagua, Bahamas. From Freeport to Miguana, Bahamas. Tourists love our country, Bahamas. 700 islands, Bahamas. Happy independence, Bahamas.
Join us on Social Mania, a new and dynamic game show based on the Ministry of Education's primary and junior high school social studies curriculum. Students from schools across the Bahamas go head-to-head as their knowledge of social studies is challenged. In this episode, C.W. Sawyer Primary School battles Uriah Maxey Primary School. Which school will emerge as winner? To find out, join us as these two schools engage in intense competition. Don't miss it.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Ben. This
Hello.
is Mr. Lewis from Accelerated
Yes.
Bank. You would
Yes.
have received a demand letter from our legal
Yes.
team.
At Harold One, I'm Ted Jervis, and this is ZNS.
The Rundown is brought to you by Commonwealth Brewery Limited. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show. It's great to have you with us for a short week. And, of course, we get right into what's making headlines. We join Bahamians everywhere, of course, first of all, to celebrate the country's 52nd independence anniversary. And we, of course, will be keeping a top on how things will be shaping up. Well, the 49th annual Caricom Heads of Government meeting is underway in Montego Bay, Jamaica. The high-level conference officially opened yesterday with Jamaican Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, assuming the 6-month leadership post. Now, the summit primarily focuses on the escalating security crisis in Haiti and broader regional security concerns, with Caribbean leaders exploring urgent actions to address the violence caused by armed gangs and its impact on the region. Bakusha Pinder tells us what Prime Minister the Honorable Philip Davis wants to accomplish at the regional event.
Firearms are holding strong as the weapon of choice in the vast majority of serious crimes here in the Bahamas. And while the country dodged a huge bullet recently, that cache of firearms and ammo on display at the police headquarters last month speaks loudly to this growing problem. There is, however, a long-held view that while the Bahamas does not manufacture firearms, its neighbor to the north, the mighty United States, does. But as regional leaders, like Prime Minister the Honorable Philip Davis, contend, this does not translate into their right to traffic arms.
They are stepping up to assist, but we still think more can be done. The time has come for us to declare war on guns, as we declared war on drugs, war on guns to help us remove these guns off our streets. And discussions are now being held because, as the chairman is noting, that a lot of these criminal activities are being born from criminal organizations, suggesting that these are organized crime born by transnational criminal enterprises, which we need again to tackle.
Regional security, just one of several intense discussions Caribbean leaders have been locked in over the past day and a half in Jamaica. Issues impacting the administration of justice also brought to the fore.
The idea coming out of that, it was a shared view that there has to be a coordinated response between the executive and the judiciary without compromising the independence of the judiciary. And I think a clear understanding came out of there that the courts have to appreciate and be sensitive to what is happening in our communities, particularly how the local conditions are impacting and fueling the scourge of crime that is troubling all of our countries.
The 49th Caricom meeting wraps up on Tuesday.
Bakusha Pinder reporting there tonight. And as we've been discussing already, we recognize it's a collaborative effort, right? In order for us to be able to get this situation of crime, which is a regional concern, it's not just here in the Bahamas, throughout Caribbean countries, they're facing the same issue. In order to get it under control, there has to be collaboration with the judiciary. We know that because they're the ones that try the cases and give the sentences. And there has to be some kind of continuity between setting the laws and legislation and, of course, governments running what's happening in their countries to, of course, judiciary, who must try the cases in a timely fashion and, of course, give the penalty befitting of these crimes as some form of deterrence. And then, of course, there is going to the correctional facilities and ensuring there's some rehabilitation. So it's a whole three-pronged approach, if I should say, put it that way, in order to solving the problem. And you're not going to solve it if you don't have all three areas involved in addressing the issue, because they all play a critical role in addressing crime challenges in the country. And anyone who believes that you can just make it a political issue, you're wrong, because whether you're in governance or you get to govern or if you've been in governance, you will know that it is a tough situation to deal with in a country where people are making careless decisions. People are taking the sanctity of lives callously. And young people are growing up and are resorting to crime because it's what they've been introduced to or because they figure that's the only alternative. This is a serious regional issue and it must be given considerable attention. Caricom, though, is showing some teeth on this comb by at least bringing in the chief justices from various countries to discuss it, because you cannot find a solution to crime if you don't address it in the courts. And that's where it has to be addressed in order to bring some level of continuity. So we'll wait and see what coming out of CARICOM, any decisions that are made and how they'll impact countries like the Bahamas and the rest of the region. Meantime, back here at home, tens of millions of dollars being pumped into national security. Financial Secretary Simon Wilson disclosed that information this morning while speaking at the Ministry of National Security's multi-agency financial accounting conclave at Super Club Breezes that brought together financial officers. It's a law enforcement agency is also a part, and senior government officials.
When you look at the budget, you may not see the full extent of the project in the budget. So, for example, you will not see in the budget, in the Defense Force budget, you will not see the $90 million for refurbishing the fleet. You see a portion of it, but you won't see the whole thing. And this is where forward planning, strategic planning takes place. You know, this is where you, as a team, we have to schedule, consider, move resources around to be able to effectively deliver these services to the public.
Well, Wilson also shared that in this fiscal period, there are a number of large Ministry of National Security projects that will contribute to making our borders safer. He noted that while line items may appear modest at first glance, the true cost of these projects often exceeds what's printed.
For the Department of Corrections, we have a construction of a new prison and virtual court, which is a $90 million project. For the Defense Force, we have modernization of the fleet as well as refurbishing the fleet. The total of that could be close to $100 million when you consider the new ship, which is the new flagship, which the Defense Force is considering acquiring. For the police department, we have modernization of the main campus. The government's already announced the intention to build a new police administrative center, as well as acquire 12 fire trucks, and that in itself is going to be around $80 to $90 million.
Wow, so you're talking big figures here. Again, I think it's interesting to understand how the budget works, right? Because if you're talking about looking in the budget itself and trying to see what things will cost, and you're hearing from the Financial Secretary that everything won't be lined item because you know, you see a portion of the cost there, but that's not exactly all of what it costs. And then again, some may argue, well, is that a true depiction of the budget, right? Because if you're not putting all the figures of what it will cost, then is it a true depiction of what you're actually spending? And this is why you have people like the opposition and others who will question your budget because they will say, well, this figure here can't be enough to do this entire project. But now you hear the Financial Secretary saying, well, it's not that, it's that everything is not listed under that particular line item. And of course, perhaps that means because they can't fund everything to its entirety with the budget. You fund a portion to get done what you need to get done, and then you find other ways and means to move around funds to be able to complete projects. That's how it works, right? And so it just helps you to understand that these things are very technical, and oftentimes when you take a first look at what you're spending, is that oftentimes actually what it actually is. It's a lot more in that regard. Anyway, we'll watch and see just how the government is going to do what it does with this budget that it's hoping to be very ambitious in accomplishing a lot over the next year. Let's turn now to some startling health statistics. This caught my attention tonight in the newscast. The rate of overweight teens in the Bahamas has dramatically increased by over 135% over the last 27 years. You heard that? 135%. That comes down to every 2 to 5 Bahamian teens living above a healthy weight. Now, this all based on the findings of a recently released global school health survey comprising 2,213 respondents spanning 35 schools across 8 family islands.
Obesity has tripled, jumping from 7% to 21%. These are major shifts in the health profile of a generation. Compounding this, only 6% of teens meet the daily recommended amount of fruit, and just 10% meet the recommendation for vegetables, down from 14% and 31% respectively. At the same time, teens who daily or almost daily consume sugary beverages has surged. In fact, it has nearly tripled from 28% to 81%. In stark contrast, fewer than 1 in 5 teens drink enough water.
Well, as health policy lead, that's startling. As health policy lead and public health practitioner, Dr. Sharita Moxie further revealed the lack of physical activity among 3 to 18-year-olds no less daunting.
In 1998, 36% of teens got sufficient physical activity. Today, this has dropped by more than half to just 15%. Meanwhile, sedentary behavior, sitting, reclining, lying down, has soared from 55% to 72%. Sleep is an important component of both physical and mental health. Yet, significant sleep deficit is emerging among teens, with nearly 30% getting less than 5 hours of sleep per night, far below what is required for healthy brain development, emotional regulation, and optimal academic performance.
Okay, so let's pause. Let me break it down, because some of y'all don't seem to be getting it. Your child lazy and they eating garbage. That's the bottom line. Too much fried chicken, too much fried, let me stop, because before the chicken vendors say I stop in their business. Too much bad food. All that junk food. The drive-through lines around this country are crazily long all the time because we're buying junk food for our children. They're not getting healthy food. We don't have time to cook food. We don't have time to buy healthy vegetables and fruits. Well, the reality is they're probably so expensive in food, so you can't buy them. But the reality is we're not picking up healthy food for our children. I'm guilty of it too. Well, listen, we have to do better, right? And then all of this laying down on your phone all day. Let's see, that downtime with no physical activity, that's because they're on YouTube. They're on Snapchat. They're watching movies. They're on Netflix. All that. Especially during the summer, they're just laying down watching TV all night, and they're not getting enough sleep because they go to bed after you. They go to bed after you, and so they get 5 hours sleep because they're watching TV all night, they're on social media all night, and they wake up tired, they can't focus, they can't think. We've got to do a better, we are raising a generation that won't be around long enough to see adulthood if we keep it up. We have to put some rules and regulations in place. Parents, it is your duty. It is your responsibility. If you're going to have children, you've got to be responsible in raising them. Proper diet, proper rest. Oh, Lord, get off the social media. Our children are in trouble because we're enabling the bad habits, because we don't be bothered by them. So to keep them active and keep them busy, we just let them go on the phone because we don't be bothered, right? Because we're tired after a long day's work. So you're happy the child on the social media, on the phone, or watching TV, and just let them stay in their corner so they don't bother you so you could rest. But it's killing our children. It's killing our children. We have to do better. And that, of course, that jaw-dropping statistics is what the premise of our discussion is going to be tonight. What astonished Bahamians was that the report showed alcohol consumption, along with obesity, among teens is on the rise. Your child drinking, your good child, they drinking. Get this, more than half of the teens surveyed, bet you didn't know this, they used illegal drugs by the age of, oh my God, 13. Your child is using drugs by 13. but that's your good child, right? Additionally, lifetime cocaine use surged to 12% in 2023, while marijuana use more than doubled. I can't believe these statistics. The question remains, how do we get here? Well, I can tell you how we get here. How did all of this happen? Where were the parents? We're going to have a serious, sober-minded discussion tonight with Dr. Moxie. She's responsible for this survey, and she's under research. She's going to join us tonight on this show to bring greater clarity to these numbers that have literally gone viral around the world. We need to talk about it. We need to have a serious conversation. Yes, and you spend this Independence Week we're supposed to be celebrating, but yeah, we got to bring it to you because you ain't going to find it another way. You ain't going to no forum. You ain't going to listen no other way, so I got to bring it to you so that you can understand that we have to get a rest of this. We have to address these issues or we're going to lose another generation. And you're going to be crying over your child when you find out what your child is involved in. So this is a conversation we need to have. So don't go nowhere. We need to have this conversation. And then we'll end on a lighter note if we get around to it. Talk about Clifford Park and Bay Street if we get around to it. But I want to deal with this tonight. This is serious. We're going to talk about it. You're watching The Rundown. When we get back, our conversation begins. Stay with us.
Got termites and need to get rid of them fast? Trust Rent-A-Kill Initial. With over 60 years experience in the Bahamas, the global brand, training, and expertise can't be beat. Only Rent-A-Kill Initial gives you a 3-year warranty and payment plan options on termite fumigation. No one can match the range of treatments we offer, such as fumigation, pre-construction treatments, termite monitoring, and more. No matter where you are in the Bahamas, we will come to you. When it comes to complete termite eradication, there's only one name, Rent-A-Kill Initial.
This summer, make your statement in color. Ramilda Rose Designs proudly presents the Bohemia Print Collection, a vibrant tribute to island elegance and effortless style. Available now for pre-order and officially launching June 8th. Be bold, be beautiful. Let your style speak Bahamian boldness. Place your orders today at RamildaRoseDesigns.net. Ramilda Rose Designs, where fashion meets heritage.
I have been coming to this island since I was 12 years old. It didn't take me long to realize the rich history it has here. When I bought this island in 2018, I fulfilled a lifelong dream. The goal is not only to preserve the memories I made over those years, but to make new ones and to give others the opportunity to do the same. As we go through this process, it has become clear to me, we aren't just rebuilding an island, we're reviving a legend.
Planning the execution of a newscast is serious business. From the assignment to the concept of the story, everything has to be precise, on point, always. The Bahamas Tonight, the National Report, is your trusted news service. We get it right the first time. Our preparation for you each night is done with care, knowing that our voices will reach you on 700 islands and keys with unquestionable accuracy. It gives me great pleasure each night to say,
welcome to the Bahamas Tonight, the National Report. I'm your national anchor, Mukesh Lapinder.
Welcome back, and a special good night to all of you watching. Those of you who are here in the lines, and I see you online. Those of you watching on YouTube, whether you're watching from around the Bahamas, the Caribbean, Turks and Caicos Islands, or internationally, it's always a pleasure to have you join us here in the Rundown. We're rising rates of obesity, exposure to violence, mental health challenges, and risky behaviors that health officials believe can very well lead to lifelong consequences. Taking a closer look tonight at that comprehensive report based on a series of questions to children between the ages of 13 and 17 years in the Bahamas, which illustrates a troubling indication of a more complex, more dangerous, more emotionally burdensome reality than any generation before. It was released last week by the Ministry of Health and Wellness Policy Lead, Dr. Sharita Moxie. Dr. Moxie is here with us tonight to delve a bit deeper into these stats. Dr. Moxie, thank you for being here on the Rundown. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Clint, and might I say congratulations for the work that you've been doing here while at ZNS.
Thank you.
Awesome
Thank
job.
you. It's been a work in progress, and I have a great team. Thank you. So let's jump right in, because I can't, just reading the stats are startling. And I can't believe, and I think we always like to kick the can down the road and say, oh, they us, oh, they us. Oh, you know, we ain't want to look at that. But we need to stop and pause, because we are in trouble if we don't chart a different course for our young people. And when we say young people are in trouble, I know it sounds overrated, but they're literally in trouble. They're in trouble physically with their health.
Yep.
They're in trouble with their habits. They're in trouble with the challenges that they're facing in their community. And the statistics show that there's a need for greater intervention. And I want to point out that the reason why we're doing this show is because we want to be able to point out the issues so there can be greater intervention. And I would hope that that's also the focus of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Let's identify the problem so we know exactly what we need to cater the programs to in order to reach them. I want to begin, first of all, with the emotional issues, and then I'll come back to the physical issues. Drug addiction. Involvement. Talk about some of the statistics that you found with young people and their lifestyles.
So, focusing on substance use, what the survey identified for us was, and we heard it a lot since the release of the report. Oh, we kind of knew that. We weren't surprised. But I think what is important to underscore is that this survey quantified for us the magnitude of the problem. I think we cannot underscore that enough. So when we look at substance use and substance abuse, we see that 17% of our teens, for example, are using e-cigarettes. Now, we have seen a decline in the use of traditional cigarettes, but around the world. We're seeing that substitution, right? We're seeing that substitution from traditional cigarettes to e-cigarettes. Then we look at other illegal substances. Looking at marijuana use, as your promo would have said, we've seen a doubling effect in marijuana use among teenagers. When we look at cocaine use, and when we looked at the results of the survey, even the internal team, the data analysts that looked at the data and further explored the data, we came together and we were like, this cannot be real. Let's crunch these numbers again. The same thing with sexual health of our children. We wanted to crunch numbers again and make sure that this is, in fact, the results of what our teens were saying to us through this survey. And so we have seen a tremendous increase in lifetime cocaine use among teens between the ages of 13 and 18 years.
How are they getting access to cocaine?
Well, when we asked the question very explicitly, we said, how easy is it to get drugs? And over 30% says between very easy to easy in our population to obtain drugs. When we asked specific to alcohol use, the 3 top places that they got the alcohol from were from friends, families, and of course purchasing it from a store.
Wow. Which tells us again that we are not cracking down enough on people coming to purchase. You know, in America, you have to provide the ID. You have to provide proof of being an adult. Here, that's the law. But are we following it? Are we enforcing it? Is mom and pop going to turn down an alcohol sale because they don't have your ID? Or are they going to say, man, that's $15 right there for that pint? It's sad, though, because they know exactly where to go.
Yes.
To get the alcohol without being asked about their age.
Yes. And I think, as you say, we have legislation on the books, but it needs to be enforced. And I think, as well, we really need to look at, because yes, it's the teen going to purchase alcohol, but sometimes parents and guardians are enablers. They send the teens to purchase.
Go get that for me. Go run inside and go pick me up this.
Correct. And so it somewhat desensitizes the teen. Okay, if my parent, if my guardian, my mother, my father sending me to go and purchase, then obviously it must be okay. I think what we also found when we did some deeper analysis was that even though overall, when teens went to purchase, 75% of them were not asked. Girls were not asked with greater frequency than boys.
Really?
Really. And hopefully during the course of this program, we could delve into some of those distinguishing statistics between the boys and the girls, because I think our girls too are equally at risk. Though they are performing well or better than boys academically. I point to a study that Dr. David Allen would have done. And what he found was that, and what we see repeated in the survey, was that academic performance is not a mitigator for risk in girls. And so we look at the girls and we be like, oh, you know, they're performing academically, they're
so
doing well.
Okay.
They're not. They're not. So, again, you know, this is a very complex issue. A lot came out of this survey, and we at the Ministry of Health, of course, under the leadership of Dr. Darville and CMO Macmillan, felt as though we had to share this information with the public. Information is power, but it's also very guiding, and so it helps us now to craft those next steps.
Let's talk about the issues of sexual behavior. It said it showed a mixed results. It says more teens abstained from sex in 2023 compared to previous survey cycles, and fewer sexually active teens reported having multiple partners. 14.6% in 2023, down from 55.1% in 1998. Despite this progress, it said risky behaviors are still too common among sexually active teens. There was a concerning gap between teens' knowledge of condom benefits, 71.6%, and actual condom usage rate, 47.7%. During their last sexual encounter. That means they weren't using any protection.
That is correct. None.
Also at that time, only 6.8% reported using hormonal birth control to prevent pregnancy. Disturbingly, 56.6% of sexually active teens initiated sexual activity by the age of 13 or younger, with boys more likely than girls to debut early and have multiple sex partners.
Yeah. You know, being a physician, being in the health space, being in public health, some of the stories we hear about sexual activity at young ages in our school, we're talking, and the audience might be surprised, but we're talking children in preschool and primary school imitating sexual behaviors at that early of an age. And so again, it speaks to, you know, how are we raising and rearing our children? What are we instilling in our children? What is the home environment? It's a very complex issue. What is the home environment in which our children are being raised? What are they being exposed to?
Yeah.
Are they being properly monitored? We know that the internet could be used for good, but it's also an evil
I'm
device.
thinking if a child in preschool or primary school is imitating sexual activity, chances are they're probably seeing something in their home that they shouldn't be seeing. You know, a lot of these homes are small. Kids are right there when mom come home with her friend, and they seeing the child sleep, and she go to town. The child right there watching.
Yeah. And again, the role of parents in being stewards of what their children consume. So, you know, the song we used to sing when we were growing up, oh, be careful little eyes what you see, or be careful little ears what you hear. And so that is as true today as it was
and
50,
right now,
70 years
TV content
before.
is so explicit.
Yes.
I mean, the barriers are way off now on what they consider normal activity for television. And it's alarming. When we talk about the fact that children are not using protection, I mean, when I grew up in school, they taught you're not going to have sex. First of all, I came from a Christian school.
Correct.
It was an abominable sin to have sex, but they said, you know, they didn't want to say it, but they had to say. But those of you who are not going to listen, you must use a condom. So it was expected that you were not going to just have sex without protection. But nowadays it seems as though that's not common or popular.
And the statistics are bearing it out, right? So teens are preferring not to protect themselves. And we see this translated in our national HIV and AIDS statistics, where they would have indicated an uptick in sexually transmitted infections. And I do believe a formal report is going to come out within the next week or 2 weeks to give greater clarity to from the sexual health perspective, the dire straits that we are in. I think the report will look at the statistics from a national perspective. But again, this report gives us some insight into how our teens are contributing to that national rise in STIs. So again, we need to look at, are we making condoms readily available for kids to use, right? Are we stigmatizing the use of condoms in the teenage population? Are we educating them sufficiently? Is our sexual education curriculum modernized enough? And are we, repetition is good. We learn through repetition. Is this something that we are teaching from, again, as early as primary school? Of course, age-appropriate sexual health education, but we need to look at it as a country. Prevention is better than cure, right? And are we going to arm our children with the knowledge, the education, the wisdom, the willpower to make right decisions now, or are we going to pay the cost down the road for HIV medication, for hospitalizations, and the like?
I think parents are afraid. No parent wants to admit and say to their child, you bad, so use this condom, please. No one wants, because parents like to assume that their child is not having sex when they know quite well the time would be a lot. No one wants to admit. And I think for parents, educating their child about using condoms is almost like giving consent. And parents are afraid to say, I'm going to have that conversation because that means I'm endorsing it. And I don't want to know if my child says, okay, sure, I appreciate you telling me that. Can you buy me back a condoms? Because then you're going to freak out and say, well, why do you need condoms? Are you really having sex? I would half kill you if you're having sex. And then the child never gets the help they need to get. And I think that's the problem we have in our society, is that we always think of our child, I don't want to say more highly they are, because you ought to think good of your children, but we never want to have the reality check. That, listen, I'm talking to my child, and yes, I have a good Christian home, but my child probably having sex.
Yeah. And I think our Constitution, is founded on Christian principles, right? And
even though we don't practice it.
We see ourselves as a Christian nation, yes, even though we don't practice it. And sometimes, it's hard to have those conversations. And yes, in the health space, in the public health space, we would say, abstain. That is the preferred route. If, however, you are going to engage in sexual activity, you need to protect yourself.
There are literally, and this is what's frightening, right? Because now children are not only just practicing sexual activity, they're uploading them, they're putting them online, they have sites, they have, kids share videos in their phones. And you're wondering, how are kids recording themselves having sex and then sending them around?
Clint, I think that's beyond the conversation for today. It's the reality that we're in. It is the reality that we're in, and I think it brings home the point that we really have a lot of work to do in
and that is being normalized, right? Because when you start recording yourself, it means that you're normalizing your activity. It's no longer, I'm privately doing this, and I know it's wrong, so I'm sneaking this. It's like, everybody's doing it. Let me show you what I did.
But it also speaks to the value you place on you. And so that is why we have to start early. We have to ensure that our children have a high value on themselves and of themselves, that they see themselves as God sees them, and certain things will become no's, but it's those foundational principles and precepts that we need to get right. We need to go back to basics.
How do we begin to even address these statistics and cause it to be reversed in the opposite direction?
So I think it starts with taking a hard look in the mirror. It requires us to put down our defenses, and recognize that this is not a blame game.
Right.
This is
Right.
everybody
Let's
coming.
start there, yeah.
Everybody coming to the table, recognizing that we are dealing with a generation that is in peril, and we cannot afford to politicize this. We
Right.
cannot afford to play the blame game. We cannot afford to kick the can down the road,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
We have to melt down those defenses and come to the table and let's talk about what do we need to do. It's not Clint's problem, it's not Sharita's problem, it's not the Ministry of Health's problem, education problem, it's our problem. These are our children. And if we do not put in safeguards now, I think what the statistics are telling us is that we will be in chaos. Not in 10 years, but in 2 years, 3 years, and 5 years.
I'm glad we're seeing this now because this, to me, if I'm in the Ministry of Education, I'm automatically calling in my curriculum writers, I'm calling in my counselors and saying, okay, we need to revise our course. We need to start focusing on these issues that our children are dealing with, drugs, alcohol, sex. We need to start putting some more focus on it because at those levels, you can mandate that there is a discussion at that level.
Right.
I want to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about suicide. And when we come back, not just suicide, but of course, the obesity survey, the health survey, which is now putting people's lives on the line. We're having a very interesting discussion with Dr. Sharita Moxie. The Rundown, we're back after this. Stay close.
In 2010, a grant helped Bahamas striping group of companies get started. Today, that seed has grown into a national force, building roads, airports, and brighter futures. Now, we're leading the way through public-private partnerships, what we call 3Ps, where government vision meets private sector innovation. 3Ps empowers local subcontractors, giving them the chance to bid. And with every contract, we're putting money directly into communities, creating jobs, supporting families, and fueling growth. From roads in Eleuthera to community centers in the inner city, we're not just laying asphalt, we're laying foundations for financial opportunity. At Bahamas Striping Group of Companies, we believe in building more than infrastructure. We're building up Bahamians who build the Bahamas. 3Ps, public-private partnerships for people, progress, and prosperity.
The internet isn't just for surfing. There's a sea of shoppers buying online, and you can connect with them on Tingsy. Tingsy is the SBDC's online storefront built for Bahamians. Take your business to the next level by selling to customers online, both at home and around the world. People want Bahamian things, and if you got things to sell, sell on Tingsy. Find out how you can connect with a sea of buyers by visiting tingsybahamas.com.
There are over 40,000 students in our public school system, and the mission of the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training is to equip every one of them with a quality education. This requires a full complement of quality teachers. The ministry, in conjunction with the Department of Labor, is hosting a job fair to recruit teachers on July 12, 2025 in the foyer of the Ivy Dumont Building on University Drive from 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Applicants for positions such as trained teacher, craft instructor, guidance counselor, and supply teacher are welcomed. If you're passionate about inspiring this generation and the next, see you at the fair, because every child counts.
Welcome back to the Rundown. Of course, if you're just joining us, we're having a discussion. We're informing you tonight your child is having sex, your child is on drugs, your child is overweight. It's harsh, right? That's what people just start saying to people. Have the real conversation and not sugarcoat it and say, your child is doing so well when your child is in trouble. And we have to find a way to rescue our children. Dr. Sharita Moxie is telling us the statistics and how they are alarming. And your child is falling in these statistics. And you have to be finding ways to help them. All right, let's move on. We talked about sexual activity, drugs, alcohol, marijuana. I want to now look at suicide.
Sure.
That also stunned me What are the stats showing regarding suicide?
So when we look at, so we have a spectrum for the suicide ideations. You can contemplate, you can make a plan, and then you can execute, you can attempt. And what we found was that 25% of teens in 2023 contemplated suicide, seriously contemplated suicide.
Wow.
25% made a plan to commit suicide, and 20% actually attempted suicide.
That is ridiculously high.
That is ridiculously high. And to put it in real terms, if you have a class of, say, 35 children in a class, you're looking at between 8 and 9 students. That is a significant proportion of any given classroom. And it speaks again to the level of stress that our children are under. It speaks also to the fact that a lot of them are crying internally and not being able to vocalize that hurt, that scar, that pain. And so we must do better to find ways for them to feel comfortable talking about what is in fact troubling them, what is on their mind. And one of the things that did not come out in the press conference was that it's almost 65% of teens that actually say they know where to go to get help, but they're not accessing the help. So that says to us as policymakers, as educators, as health providers, that there's a gap. So yes, we can do better with increasing awareness in education. Yes, we can do better with regards to providing services, mental health services. But we need to ensure that whatever that gap is, and if we were to delve deeper, I am sure we will get at the heart of some issues like trust. Maybe I don't feel as though you're going to be confidential with my information. So it also requires an internal look at systems that we have and environments that we have that probably make teens feel as though when they tell us something, we either aren't listening or we either aren't trustworthy with the information that they give us.
Judgmental with it too.
And judgmental.
Do we know what's causing them to want to feel suicidal? What are these family issues, friends issues, relationship issues? What is causing it?
So from the survey perspective, we did not delve into the cause of it. That requires some additional research and studies for us to understand what is actually at the root of it. But I think as we look globally, we recognize that our teens, I would have said it before, they are facing tremendous pressures that you and I did not face when we were growing up. Pressure to be a certain size, pressures to have brand name this and brand name that.
And social media has contributed significantly to it.
Correct. And the influence of
There's a lot of bullying going on social media, and people are being impacted by it.
Yes. And impacted by lives that aren't really reality, you know?
I'm glad you said that, because we look and see, you know, TV and social media gives you these false impressions of what people are living like, and if you're not living this or you're not having this, then you're not really living, and that you're lousy, you ought to kill yourself. There are even some people who force you on social media to do something about it. If you're feeling depressed, then do something about it. It's crazy what's on social media. People will actually encourage you. There are sites that encourage you to take it into your own hands if you're not happy with life. And we have to be able to monitor what our children are doing. Talk to our children. We see that if our children go into depression mode, or we see their activity changes, something is up. Don't just assume, well, you just ain't feeding yourself today. Something is up.
Yeah, and I think even going a step further, we need to arm our parents with what are the signs. We say, we need to be more cognizant of the signs, but do we actually know what the signs are? When my child is depressed, when my child feels anxious and overwhelmed, how does that manifest? What am I looking for? And so I really encourage, Clint, all persons to actually read the report, because we spell out a significant amount of policy actions that we believe can help us. It is not all policy actions. There are some policy actions for us to mitigate against the mental and psychological ills that our children are facing. We believe that there is room for the use of technology. We believe that there is room for ensuring that we have assessments done For example, we have health assessments currently done in the public health sector, grades 1, 4, 7, and 10. We're saying let's now be intentional about surveilling the mental health of our children and implementing psychological assessments along with these health assessments. Let us ensure that we have what we call in the plan talk kits for parents. So I may not know how to talk to my children about difficult situations, sex, mental health. I may not know. So let's develop a library of information and resources that parents can utilize and pull from.
Arm yourself. Arm yourself. I think we can't say that. I know we have about 60 seconds. I got to get obesity in there. Obesity. Our children aren't eating healthy. They're not eating proper. We got to do better. Talk about that.
Yeah, and this is a tough point, but this is a sticky point because we all have to recognize that it is the environment in which we live that is contributing to it. So when you have a fast food restaurant on every corner, when healthier options are not the easier option, so you go to the grocery store, for example, and at the cash register, what do you see? Do you see fruits?
The chocolates.
No, you see chocolates, candy, and chips, right? That's what you see. So how do we change this culture, this environment that our children are growing up in to ensure that they have the best chance? Because, you know, mental health and physical health, there's a bi-directional relationship, right? The healthier I am, the better mental health I'm likely to have, and vice versa. And then we bring in the socioeconomics.
It impacts your capacity to think and to learn.
Yeah.
You want to say you could begin reversing your child, your so-called, what you call them, dumbness. Feed them healthy. Feed them healthy. Yeah. You want to understand why Junior can't think? Because Junior eating garbage. Give Junior some fruits and vegetables, and Junior all of a sudden can start understanding that 2 + 2 is actually 4.
Yeah, your food is really your health, and I think we need to get in a position where fruits and vegetables are available and more affordable. We need to get to a place where healthier foods are more accessible to the Bahamian population. We need to get to a point where a bottle of water does not cost more or equal to a can of soda.
Correct.
We need to get to a point where we recognize that corned beef, I know we love it. I love corned beef myself.
Well, that's a good, so listen, fire.
But we need to get to the point where if we are going to have corned beef on the bread basket, it is mitigated by other healthier options. So we need to look at our systems, at our environment, and we really need to make choices that are going to be healthier for the generations to come.
That's some good information. I can't believe we're done, because I see a part 2. Because as long as we can give information to our people, we can help them. Dr. Sharina Moxie, excellent job with this. You have begun a national conversation. And I'm certainly not moving away from it. We're going to continue to talk about it. Thank you for the work of you and your team in getting this done. We look forward to being able to talk more about this. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Boy, I feel like eating corned beef and rice. When we come back, we're going to talk about independence. What can you expect this week of Independence Week? What I fired you with some corn looking good right now. I'll put some corn on it, some vegetables, some corn. We're back after this.
Tired of looking at the same old kitchen? Step 1. Our talented recommended designer, Mark, crafts a custom design just for you. Step 2. Once your design is ready, CBS Bahamas makes ordering effortless. Your dream kitchen is within reach. Step 3. Our recommended installers bring your vision to life, ensuring every detail is perfectly in place. Sit back and relax as your dream space becomes a reality. Visit cbsbahamas.com and start bringing your home improvement dreams to life today.
After I was in a plane crash in June 1983, I lost my left arm. I had some good friends, came along, fishing guides. They said, man, we can teach you to fly fish. Exuma, exuma. Can you see? Look at it, man. One of the nicest places you want to be in the world. There were challenges learning to cast, learning to put a fly on a leader, learning to tie the different knots for me as a handicapped individual. As a matter of fact, I don't really feel handicapped because I could do everything, man. Anything anybody could do, I think I could do it too. Because put your mindset to do anything, no matter what you are, what you look like, what's happening to you, You can do it. For instance, in our positions, it's hard to get fundings and very, very expensive. SBDC would be helpful in regards to help funding people with disabilities. So nothing is impossible if you're disabled. Any kind of disability. Put faith in God and trust God. Believe you will overcome.
Is the Little Caesars Stuffed Crust Pizza. Get more pizza for less money. Only $12. It's a whole new level of pizza with cheese stuffed crust so spectacular that there's nothing left.
Pizza.
A delicious pepperoni pizza with the crust stuffed with lots of cheese and brushed with butter and garlic flavor and sprinkled with Parmesan cheese. Hot and ready Thursday to Saturday between 4 and 8 for only $12. Simply irresistible. And only at Little Caesars.
Pizza.
Finally tonight, 52 years strong. 52 years strong. It was on July 10th, 1973, when the United Kingdom's Union Jack descended and the Bahamas flag of aquamarine black and gold was hoisted for the first time, marking an independent Bahamas. Thousands of Bahamians here at home and around the world are extremely proud of their heritage, particularly this week. And of course, we're not only just talking about a trip down memory lane, we're also talking about what this now means for an independent Bahamas. Joining me, of course, is the country's Ambassador at Large, His Excellency Ron Pinder. Ambassador, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
I know we're going to be celebrating all week independence and having all the festivities of what it means to be independent Bahamas. Yeah. But I want to talk about some of the areas that independent Bahamas has fostered, has brought in place. And one of that is, of course, foreign policy. Yeah. Talk about, as an independent nation, some of the things we've had to put in place regarding our foreign policy.
Well, Clint, again, it's good to be here, and happy independence.
Thank you. Same to you.
To you and to the listening audience and the viewing audience. This is a proud time for every Bahamian, as it should be. Since the attainment of independence in 1973, we had not a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but a Ministry of External Affairs under the incoming pending administration. And immediately that administration began to put in place policies and initiatives to connect the Bahamas to the world as an independent sovereign country. So we became a member of the UN, United Nations. We became a member of the Commonwealth. And there were major initiatives signed under the Pinland administration. Under the Ingram administration, we saw the establishment of the Bahamas Maritime Authority, bolstering the fleet and the ship registry, and then, of course, foreign direct investment with the establishment of the Bahamas Investment Authority.
Wow.
Under the Christie administration, we saw another thrust, regionalism, and engaging the international community. As you know, when the Christie administration came to office, we were coming off the heels of September 11th.
Right.
So there were a number of major tax exchange, information agreements, visa waiver agreements that the Christie administration signed to bolster the presence of the Bahamas in the international community. And then, of course, under the Minnis administration, we saw this thrust of the South-to-South cooperation, bolstering the Bahamas' tie with regards to public health, with regards to government transparency, that anti-corruption thrust, as the Minnis administration saw it at that time. And then, of course, now with the Davis administration, we see climate diplomacy, climate and economic and environmental justice at its finest. And we have been engaging the international community, and let me tell you that there have been a number of discussions in the press and in circles in the Bahamian community with regards to foreign travel. Well, you are judged, a nation is judged on the international scene by, one, its attendance.
Yeah, gotta be present. Gotta be present.
At international meetings. Are you attending and are you present? Then you are judged on your voting record. You're judged on the statements you make. And then you're judged as how you engage the international community through cooperation, through technical assistance in these organizations, etc. And so you have to be front and center, and you have to be present. We have moved from dependency to independence, and now we're in an era of interdependency. And of course, another major plank by this Davis administration is the establishment of a Department of Foreign Affairs. That is significant. So the Davis administration has now created a career path for diplomats. So you can you can come into the ministry or to the department as a Foreign Service officer, move up the rank all the way to ambassador as a Foreign Service officer.
Wow.
And so that is very, very significant to the Bahamas and to bolstering diplomacy, bolstering our foreign relations as an independent country of some 52
You gave
years.
a great sum up just now of what we've done over the years since independence to now. Are we doing more of this so the Bahamians understand why the ministry and the Department of Foreign Affairs is so important, right? Because just listening to you in that few minutes, it kind of connected the dots as to why these relationships are so important to maintain.
Indeed.
And to keep and to nurture because they provide a presence for the Bahamas on the international map. If you just stay at home and just keep your little country and don't go nowhere, don't do anything, nobody knows about you.
Absolutely.
But how you make investments and make deals and secure a future for your country is by being at the table.
In addition to that, how you trade votes. So, for example, at the International Atomic Energy Agency, we may support a country's initiative in one way, and they vote for us at another agency. And so you have to be on the ground campaigning and moving through those General Assembly meetings, through those general conferences, gaining the support and negotiating statements, negotiating policy positions, and negotiating various resolutions. The other thing that the Bahamian public needs to be aware of, wherever a Bahamian is, that's where the Bahamas is.
Wow.
And so the government of the Bahamas has sought to have a diplomatic presence in every country of the world, whether it is through an ambassador, meaning a full diplomatic mission, or a consul general, or an honorary consul. Why? Because if a Bahamian gets him or herself in problems, the government of the Bahamas has to respond.
Correct.
And in order to respond, you have to have a presence in that particular country. That requires foreign travel, it requires diplomatic relations, and it requires being engaged on the international scene.
And it's what most countries around the world are doing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So for you not to do it puts you in a whole different category.
Absolutely, and let me tell you, Bahamians travel. They travel far and wide. And so you may have an issue where a Bahamian loses his or her passport. They may get in have some sort of health issue. They may have an accident. It may be, God forbid, some sort of criminal activity. The Bahamas has to be in the position to respond. And so foreign relations is critical for maintaining peace, for facilitating foreign direct investment, economic development, and now climate justice. Critical for the Bahamas. As a 52-year-old nation, we must be engaged, we must be in tune, and last but by no means least, we must be present at meetings.
I got 60 seconds. How are we looking on this 52nd anniversary? How are we looking around the world with our diplomatic relations?
I think the Bahamas standing on the international scene is strong, and we are engaged. Just this past week, we welcomed an ambassador from South Korea. Wow. We welcomed the ambassador from Guatemala. The Austrian ambassador came in today. The ambassador from the EU is coming in later on this week. Next week, we have a country visit from members of the International Atomic Energy Agency.
Wow.
And so we are busy, and we have been busy over the past many months and years since the Davis administration has come on board. And of course, we're continuing the foreign policy of each administration. While each administration may have its particular focus, there's been some continuity by way of foreign policy of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, representing the interests of the Bahamas as a sovereign democratic country.
So some good information in Rawalpindi. Pastor Rawalpindi, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Richard,
It's good
happy
to be
Independence.
Here. Happy Independence.
Thank you. That is it
Happy
for the rest of the rundown tonight. Be sure to stay locked to the ZNS network for the Bahamas tonight at 11. It's a final newscast in the country with the latest news and information with Royston Jones. He's somewhere around here in the building, getting ready for the 11 o'clock news. For all of us here at ZNS, I'm Clint Watson. Thanks so much for joining us. Good night.
At Fort Montague, I'm Opal Roach. This is ZNS.